Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Transpicuous Views. It's officially the end of August. Officially the end of August. And I don't know, back when I lived in North America, that was always the sign of like the depression for me would start in and be like, August is over, now comes September, and then comes autumn, then comes the fucking winter, and oh. But anyways, yeah, the summer's gone, kind of. Actually, for a lot of people in North America, summer's been fucking gone for weeks. So I'm going to start off to talk about weather. We're going to talk about the weather for a second. So it's been interesting. So between, we talk about this all the time. The weather is fucked right now. I mean, the weather is just seriously fucked everywhere. With the Unfuckers group. So we have all of us spread all over the world. So we talk weather, we get into it, and we get all these reports. Interesting, though, is because I've got our business that we do where we're basically go down to the seafront like 3-4 nights a week. And we have a little table set up and we sell our stuff. And of course, I talk to everyone because I'm me and I talk to everyone. And it's really interesting when you get into the typical weather conversations because it's all tourists, lots and lots of tourists coming from all over the place, from as far away as Australia to Norway to North America to lots, of course, from England and Germany and France and Italy. It's really, really freaking bizarre. So, I mean, we've talked about Ireland and Scotland have been freezing their ass off all summer. They haven't actually had summer yet. I'm hoping that they'll get summer. So maybe sometime in the next couple of days they'll get summer. England, washout. You guys had lovely weather in June, and that was all you got. Ontario, Canada, Southern Ontario, been shit weather. Very serious in the States, shit weather. Unbelievably cold, weird frost snaps, etc. What's been interesting is having these conversations with people. Now, this is just tourists. Just tourists. And you'll occasionally get the ones who'll be, global warming. When you talk about the heat, we have another heat wave about to hit us here. It's the humidity is already rising tonight, and by tomorrow we're supposed to be back up to 40 degrees again, 40, 42. So you get the odd person who throws out, global warming. And then you turn around and you kind of, because I can't help it, I have to poke the bear and say, oh, yeah, but that's just here because in other places it's freezing, like Ireland, like Scotland, like southwestern Ontario. It's really, really way below seasonal norms, way below seasonal norms. And watching people's reactions. First of all, when you point that out, because you see them respond with the automatic rhetoric, oh, well, global warming, usually followed by a Donald Trump slam, right? Because Donald Trump doesn't believe in global warming. And then when you start pointing out how cold it is in other places, you see them kind of, you watch almost the programming twitch because they go, oh, that's right. Oh, shit. Wait, click, click, click. As you can see the programming trying to, and they're going, but logically it's not global warming because I talked to a lovely couple from Amsterdam, just outside Amsterdam. And she threw out the whole global warming thing. And I was like, well, I don't know. You guys aren't having a very warm summer, are you? And she was like, oh, yeah. And I said, I've got friends who are out near Haarlem, and they've lost a good portion of their gardens this year because they had frost. They didn't get a lot of their stone fruits didn't come in because of the frost. She was like, yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true. But you can see in her eyes that trying to compute, like does not compute, global warming, global warming, global warming, has been so programmed. And yet when you point out the fact that no, that doesn't wash, it doesn't, and it, no, Deb, it's not even, it's yeah, because we get the, okay, there's the fluoride stare, we know that. But I've actually watched people struggling, and it's like you've just given them something that they know. Obviously, they live in Holland. They know the weather fucking sucks and has sucked all summer long. So you're not telling them something new that they have to try and comprehend as far as like, oh, that's a new fact. But you're twisting the piece, the rhetoric, and going, we've got this piece here. Pamela and Tony, can you guys mute, please? So I find it really interesting to watch people and how they react to that conversation. Because they automatically have that, they start to argue, and then when you put the facts in front of them, and they obviously they can't, you watch them struggle with the programming. And what's interesting is, let's say it's different, or at least I'm seeing it as being different. It was like last year you got the fluoride stare. This year I'm seeing a lot more people who are actually working through the program. You can actually see them working through the programming and going, well, wait a second. That doesn't make sense. Well, wait a second. There's some, what's actually going on here? Whoa, wait, she's got a point. What's going on? So I think that's really, really interesting. And I think it's kind of symptomatic. It's one of those little things I kind of file away in my mental filing cabinet. I'm like, oh, isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting? The other thing that came up about weather is you have a whole lot, and I'm watching the comments come out, and you almost feel the deja vu. People are saying, it's like it's October already. And the first time I started seeing that really coming across the social media, like Facebook, was about 2-3 weeks ago, beginning of August. And everyone was like, oh, it's like it's October. And I went, oh, deja vu. It's like flashbacks. Because we had the exact same conversation last August, and we had the exact same conversation in August 2015. Because I can remember in August 2015, I was still in Morocco. And at the time, even the Moroccans were like, what the hell is going on? This is like October and August. They were saying, this is October weather. There was snow in the Sahara in freaking August. I mean, it occasionally snows in the Sahara in like January, February, in winter. Doesn't snow in the Sahara in August. And even the Moroccan people were just like, this is just too crazy. Okay, Deb, thank you. I wanted to ask you about that. Okay, so this is the thing about gardening. And I want to ask all of the gardeners out there, had a conversation. I have a lovely friend of ours who is in the Unfuckers room. His name is Wade, and his wife, and they're up in northern Saskatchewan, and they do massive gardens, and I will have Wade come on the show one day because we'll get into it. Remind me, new show. Someone remind me, new show. We'll get back to that. And he sent me some pictures. I was like, how's the gardens doing this year? And so he sent me like pictures of wheelbarrows full of like beautiful baby red potatoes, and there were zucchinis, and there was cucumbers, etc. And I'm sitting there going like, in my head saying, he's in northern Saskatchewan, and he's harvesting zucchini and cucumber in the middle of August. That doesn't even compute. That doesn't make sense. I mean, I've gardened my whole life, and the zucchinis and the cucumbers really start coming in. It's like the end of August into September. And if you planted late, which a lot of people had to plant late this year and the year before that, because we were getting frost in Canada right up until end of May and beginning of June. And I know a couple of friends who lost massive amounts of gardening stuff because they brought their baby seedlings out and then had frost and lost everything and had to start from scratch. Yet, it seems that the harvest is coming in early. Now, Deb, you just said that. Is anyone else seeing strange things to do with the gardening, with the growth stuff, and the way it's coming out right now? Because that's the whole thing. Okay, so right. The garden, Penny just said, but gardens are all over the place this year. You're getting, okay, Connie just said, you're getting strawberries a bowl a day in August on the East Coast, USA. Strawberries in August? Stacy, tomatoes are a full month early. Tomatoes are almost falling off. Well, this is friends of ours here. Their tomatoes are done, like done for the season. Now the tomato season should be going in Gozo here. The way they plant tomatoes is that they keep it, they plant them in a spread. So basically you almost have all the way through. Well, this is it. We got leaves are turning brown and falling off of trees like it's autumn, like it's October. We just got a shipment of apples arrived in Gozo that came from Italy, and they're fresh off the tree. And I was like, okay, whoa. Even Italy, that is, it's a hotter region, et cetera, still you usually don't get the apples arriving until last week of August. Really the first 2 weeks of September is when those apples from Southern Europe start to come in. Why are we getting fresh apples we had fresh apples in the early mid-August? It doesn't make any sense. Southeast Kansas, potatoes came in 3 months earlier. Okay, so, Okay, Robert, don't joke about Mandela effect. I'm not going to say Mandela effect, but we keep talking about time, and someone just posted an article. It was from In5D. Hold on, someone just posted. Give me 2 seconds, guys, because I know I've got it here. That was one of the last things that I looked up. And the person was asking questions about time. Oh, come on, where is it? Time anomalies in the broken glass. Okay. Yeah, so it's from the in5d.com site. And the woman's basically talking about time anomalies and saying how everyone's experiencing these wild times where like you lose time, you gain time, you lose entire days. Sometimes you lose more than one day. Time really radically speeding up or slowing down, etc. And the weeks and months flying by. And she gives the expression, she's talking about her story. Basically, she's walking along in her house and steps on a piece of broken glass. And she pulls it out of her foot and says, okay, this is just freaking crazy. We haven't broken a piece of glass or like nothing is broken in the house. How could there be a piece? John, can you mute? There we go. Thank you. And she asked everyone in the house, like, did someone break a glass? How else could I have got glass in my foot? Later that same evening, and no one had. Like, there hadn't been a glass broken in the house or anything that could possibly explain a piece of sharp shard of fresh glass being in the middle of the floor. Later that night, her cat goes to jump over something, and she just got herself a glass of water, and the cat knocked the water over, and it smashed the glass on the floor. And her first thought as she jumped up to go clean up was, well, that would explain how I got the glass in my foot. And then all of a sudden you kind of, in the whole quantum time perspective, you kind of stand back and I can almost understand that where you go, where did that come from? How did I make that association? Wait, I stepped on glass 6 hours ago and now I've just broken a glass? But time is doing strange things. And I've been looking at things like, I watch for the little things. The little things, personal, so things like how fast your nails grow. Where you can nail, so like I just cut all my nails right off this week. And I looked down last week, which is why I cut them all off. It was like I had freaking talons. Like my nails were so ridiculously long. But I was like, how the hell did my nails grow this much? The things like, like shaving your legs, when you sit there and you look down, you go, okay, seriously? It hasn't been that long since I've shaved my legs, and yet now I can French braid it? What the hell? This is ridiculous. How fast your hair grows. The little things that we, even on a subconscious level, it's almost like a timer, if you kind of look at things. Periods, women having their periods. And they're coming at really strange times. They're coming either really, really early. Last month, my cycle, I was 7 days early. My youngest daughter, 9 days early. Crazy, crazy shit. So now we're talking about plants. We're talking about harvest coming in, what feels like sometimes months early, or at least a few weeks early. Now, like I said, in examples of places like Southwestern Ontario, where I know people lost a lot of plants, and it's a May 2-4 weekend. In Canada, everyone knows May 2-4 weekend. You don't put your gardens into the ground until May 24th weekend, which is a long weekend in Canada. It's like the gardening long weekend. Open the cottage and get the gardens in. Because at that point, you should be beyond the frost, right? There shouldn't be any frost after May 24th weekend. It's safe to put your gardens in the ground and put your seedlings out into the garden. People did, and they lost everything, and they had to start fresh. And yet they're still harvesting early. How does that work? It's really, really strange. Yeah. But this is it, okay? So Charlie, yeah. So we've had multiple people in the chat room here, and they're saying that basically their menstrual cycle has been right completely off kilter, a week early, things like that. Time is doing really, really strange shit right now. We know this. We've been talking about this for ages. But when I look at the physical symptoms, i.e. the weather changes, because we can look at it, like I said, I've always looked at the tilt of the planet. Is it the planetary is tilting, which is why the sun and the moon aren't lined up, why the stars are not in the right places, et cetera, et cetera. Is it a polar shift? The magnetics changing, et cetera, et cetera. And it could be. But it's the same thing when I always look for the peg, find the one peg that fits all the different slots. You know, if this peg only fits for like the tilt of the planet, it only fits for certain anomalies that we see as an explanation. I don't know, time keeps coming up, and this whole thing of time is just so screwed at the moment. You gotta wonder just what the hell is going on. I will say this. I've had a really, really weird weekend. Strange, what do you say? Strange feelings. Strange, like going into bed, especially at nighttime, you go to bed and laying there and just being like, something's not right. I had one evening, would have been, this is Sunday, so it would have been Friday night, and I must have sat up in bed 4 or 5 times because I kept hearing sounds, things that just you couldn't explain it. And then you realize, am I actually hearing it, or am I sensing it in a different way? Things felt strange. And then when I finally got to sleep, I had really, really strange dreams. All the last 3 nights, I've had the kind of dreams where in the dreams you're like, this is so fucking weird. Don't remember them the moment I wake up, they're gone. Like nothing. Cannot even remember the topic of the dream, except to know that they were really, really strange dreams. And there was a few people. Now, Earl, you said you had a really weird night last night. Do you want to talk about that for a sec?
Yeah. So last night, okay. So yesterday my back was hurting, like as if someone had punched me right in the back really hard. So that was thing 1. Thing 2 was I went to bed and I had that rushing feeling, like my body was going towards something. I call it being transported because That's the only way I can describe how it feels. So I get to this place. At first I thought, oh, this looks like I'm on at the Parliament building in Ottawa. I'm like, huh, okay. So I keep walking, and it's weird thing, I'm actually walking. So without crutches or, but I'm not dreaming. I'm still awake, mind you. So I'm awake. I know I'm going. And I see all this light. Now, it's like similar to like Christmas, old Christmas lights, but without the color on the bulbs. And so I'm looking around. I hear people talking. But now I'm seeing Middle Eastern architecture type design in the place. And I'm hearing people talk like Arabic. It sounded like Arabic. I don't know if it actually was Arabic, but it was similar language. And I'm there. And they're standing about 3-4 feet away from me. Trudeau! Justin Trudeau is standing like 3-4 feet away from me. I know it's funny. So, and he's talking in this language. So, I'm hearing them speaking, and I understand what they're saying. Like, I don't know Arabic. I don't know any Middle Eastern language, but yet in this space and time, wherever.
Universal translator was working, so you understood it.
Exactly. There was some kind of translation thing. And so they approached me for me speaking. And I'm like, hey, guys, you're done. You, and they're like, yes, we know we're done. We can't keep up with the Mandela effects. Our false flags aren't freaking working like we want them to. So we can't. I'm like, you guys have to come and be there. Like, yes, we're working on it.
We're working on it. Work faster, damn it.
But everyone's shouting and cheering, like, because it's, I wouldn't be, I'm not making this up, because it's weird, right? Like, how could someone like me be transported to this gathering of world leaders, but I had the feeling there were other spiritual people brought into this. And all that, so yeah. It was amazing.
Yeah.
So then I got out of that, went to sleep. This morning, I'm looking around at my place. And, I live with my parents. I'm like, I know it's my place, I know it's my house, but something feels out of place. Like, the house is the same, but yet, freaking different. Like, the walls are the same, the paint is the same, the electronics, the furniture,
Yep.
And yeah, and it's just weird. Like, I don't know how to explain it. It's like, when someone moves something And it's like, I know someone moves something in this room, but I don't know
what. Just know something's different.
Right. So that's my weirdness, and like.
Well, I mean, judging from the chat, I mean, it looks like a lot of people have been having these kind of insane nights. They've had wild dreams, really, really strange experiences, but strange dreams as well. I mean, in the Unfuckers group, that everyone's been talking about some of the strange dreams that they've been having. So,
yeah, but mine wasn't a dream. Like, I've already had 3 experiences like this where I'm just transported. All of a sudden, I'm somewhere else. Then I'm back in my room, like, after, like, and I'm awake. Like,
yep.
So, yeah. I'm gonna mute now and listen to what everyone else has to say.
Well, thank you, Earl. I appreciate you sharing that with us. One of the things that came up in the Unfuckers room a couple days ago was the occurrence of dreams within a dream. Like, and the example that came up multiple times with a lot of people experiencing it, when you have the dream and you're dreaming, and then in your dream you wake up, and then you get up, you go do something, and then you realize you're actually still dreaming. So then you're like, okay, I need to wake up, and you wake up again, but then you realize again you're still dreaming. You haven't actually woken up. Now, I had a series of those back in December 2013, January 2014. I've never had one since then. And then a lot of people seem to have had that in the last couple of weeks as well. The dreams within a dream type thing. Strange shit is going on. Strange shit. Yeah, Rosanna, so did I. When I was young, I had that, like the dream within a dream type thing. So it's the whole thing about having to wake up. And the big example is, and kind of the joke, is the fact of, like, you have the dream that you have to pee. So you get up in your dream and you go to the bathroom, and then you realize, no, you're still dreaming and you still have to pee. So you in your dream, you get up and you go through multiple of this until you get to the point where you do wake up and you're like, oh my God, I have to pee so bad now. And yeah, exactly. Those can be dangerous dreams. I know a few people who had accidents that way because they've dreamt that they've gotten up and gone to the bathroom. One friend of mine peed in his garbage can in his bedroom without even realizing it, because he was dreaming within a dream. So yeah, there's been a lot of strange stuff. Now, of course, everyone has talked about the frickin' eclipse. I do not really want to get into the eclipse thing because it's been so discussed and so, in many ways, so over-discussed now that I really don't want to get into it. But at the same time, there are a lot of people pointing it and saying, like, since the eclipse, weird shit has been happening. So it's something to consider. Was it a symptomatic of something that was done? There's been multiple things said about people seeing the programming. Multiple people seeing the programming. Have a good sleep. Actually experienced seeing stuff during the eclipse that was like as if they were seeing computer programming, they were seeing entities, they were seeing all kinds of stuff. It certainly didn't feel normal. That's all I have to say about the whole thing about the eclipse. But at the same time, from the aspect, there's also a lot of other people who were hyping up the aspect of the incoming eclipse, as we're going into getting ready for the eclipse. So that it was going to be some spiritual event. There were people who were going to awaken. Which, and personally, I don't buy into. That's just me. If anything, I really do. Yeah, and okay, so they're saying that even people who aren't UU types are commenting on how weird the whole eclipse thing was. Yeah, a lot of people who are not you know, rabid conspiracy theorists like us, were posting like, wow, that was really, really strange. There's something strange about this. This just didn't feel right. And I don't know what it was, but it just did not feel right. Yeah, I tell you, very strange. So one of the things I was going to talk about tonight, and then I'm kind of like, I don't know, are we even going to go there now? Fuck it. As I talked about, and it's because this morning I had a conversation with someone this morning, and it gave me this whole thing again of like, this is another piece of that new age programming. I don't even remember what the person said now. Honestly, don't even remember what they said. But this is someone who I consider to be pretty rational, pretty very much an observer of how things play out, and yet the words that came out were very, very much that new agey kind of stuff. And I sat back and I was thinking about it later on while I was cleaning my floors, because it's when you think, when you're like doing mundane shit like cleaning your floors. We've talked about the fact for ages, and I mean, I think it's well established that the whole New Age religion was a piece of programming that was deliberately put in place to be the new religion, for the people who've walked away from religion, right? Interestingly enough, Nick made a comment today that was really kind of on the ball. And we were talking about changes of consciousness. And we were talking about, we actually had been watching Doctor Who the night before, and they were back in the, one of the episodes where they were back in the 1800s. At the very beginning, in the early part of the Industrial Revolution. And of course, the Industrial Revolution was a massive changeover. And it really was the signal, we're told anyway, when we look at history, this is all debatable, but it was the signal for a lot of the religious programming to let go. Like a lot of people, whether you say it's coincidental or not, in the whole Industrial Revolution, you saw a real change in how people looked at religion. And there was a lot of people who moved away from standard religion during that time. And especially after that, there was a real an outflow away from the standard Western religions, Christianity, Judaism, Islamic, etc. So we know that all religions are a creation to control the population, etc. So if everyone's walking away from the control mechanisms, they had to make another control mechanism. They had to create a new one to gather up all the lost sheep, right? All those ones who have left mainstream religion, you got to gather them all up. And that was the New Age movement, which was basically just their new religion. Now, when I say New Age, and apparently I offended a lot of people on my wall when I put my post up about New Age. It seems, I could be jumping to conclusions, but it seemed that there was a bunch of people with very hurt feelings, it seemed like, when you start saying the New Age religion. Yes, it's this extreme. Let's call it the whole aspect of it. So that's the savior meme, right? That whole savior meme. You don't need to do anything. It's all done. We, and the collective we, whether it's the Ascended Masters or the Galactics or the Enlightened Ones or the Archangels or, I don't know, pick one. We're coming to save you. So you don't have to do anything. You can just sit there. Just sit on your ass, start your navel, say an ohm or two, and you're all good. So when I'm talking about the New Age meme, I'm talking about that aspect. And I know that a good portion of the people in Unfuckers have at least, let's say at the very least, touched around the edges of this stuff. It just seems to be almost like a stage you have to go through when you're waking up. As you start waking up to all let's say, not waking up, let's say being aware. As you're being aware of all the shit that's going on, it almost seems like a lot of people, as you start coming to an awareness of stuff, you get sucked into that new age agenda, if you will, programming, one way or another, whether it's like deep, 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 or just skimming off the surface of it, right? But they're pieces. We've talked about this. There are pieces of this new age, programming that just linger on. Even people who see it for what it is. There's belief systems. Let's call it what it is. Belief systems. And it was very, very interesting because Nick made the comment, as I started to say, I got sidetracked, that, 150 years ago, we had the Industrial Revolution, which really signified this falling away of a lot of the religious norms of the time, started to crumble. Now we're in what he called the quantum revolution. It's kind of like we're at the next level now. And we're seeing these massive changes in that quantum. And by quantum, I don't necessarily even mean not just the physical aspect of science, as in the quantum of becoming aware of all the quantum aspects of quantum communication and looking at time and parallel universes, et cetera, and string theory and all this stuff. But the quantum aspect of even computers, right? This really is the quantum age that we seem to be going into right now, or the quantum revolution. And there's a falling away. Again, I kind of see it as this falling away of shedding this religious programming, however you want to call it. Because I've never seen as many as there are right now. People who have really seen the new age stuff for what it is and are walking away from it. Whether you were into the channeled messages, whether you were into disclosure and UFOs, et cetera, and the galactics and all the rest of this. But there's certain pieces that just seem to keep, almost like you ever walk through a spider web. You might brush it off, but then someone will look at you like an hour later and go, "You've got like something in your hair, and there's like another little piece just hanging in there, and you don't even realize it's there until someone points it out to you." And that's what I feel I'm seeing at the moment. And one of the things that came to me really strong this morning was that a piece of programming that was inserted not only for the normal religious reasons for programming, but as a way of keeping people docile. No need to take action. We don't need to do anything. We can just sit here and we can talk about love and light, and we can talk about all these Rosanna, you're not wrong. You're not fucking wrong. This is what I'm saying. Rosanna said, like lithium, which is another big thing in the news again today. Because I look, and we've seen the buildup. We've watched these buildups happen of mass movements. So Occupy Wall Street was a really good example of that. This was a movement that started in one spot. And regardless of the fact that it was engineered from the get-go by Wall Street as an excuse for them to bring in martial law, they lost control of that baby really, really fucking fast. And you had a massive amount of people wake up, like all of a sudden really, really become aware and take to the streets and start making their voices heard, et cetera, et cetera. And we've seen multiple of these moments over the last few years happening. And one of the things that I hear all the time and drives me nuts is people being like, oh, these things don't work. You shouldn't get involved, you know, don't get involved in protesting or taking a stand, or because, you know, you're paying too much energy into the system. Just don't pay energy into it. Just ignore it, which is ignoring it doesn't make it go away. I'm sorry. I'm going to call it what it is. Ignoring something doesn't mean that it no longer exists. Ignoring it means that you're ignoring it. That's all. So by ignoring it, is that part of the programming, the subtle programming put in there, like, no, you don't want to pay your energy into it. Just ignore it. Just pretend it doesn't exist. It doesn't. Only think of the positive things. Only put your energy to the positive things. Therefore, you're not perpetuating it, and just ignore it. Which basically makes a whole lot of people really, really docile. No. I'm just ignoring it. It doesn't exist in my world. It doesn't exist in my, no, I don't, no, it just doesn't exist in my world. That's what I meant with my comment today, talking about, was it deliberately planted in an effort to control the people? More importantly, this is interesting. Okay, so more importantly, not just control the people as in all the people, but like I said, a lot of the people who got sucked into that new age, however deep, were people who had already walked away from all the other programs, the religious programs. They've already walked away from Catholicism and Christianity, and they've walked away from, they've seen it for what it is. They're already on the path to really, really becoming aware of all this crap going on around them. So you get all those people who are waking up and figuring this shit out, and you suck them into another program to keep them passive and docile. Because if you don't, those are going to be the first people who are most likely going to uprise and be like, yeah, I don't fucking think so. No. And it's interesting because when I started thinking about this, it was like, the ideologies, the subtle programming and ideologies, beliefs that are kind of woven all through that. They've seeped into everything. Seeped into everything. As in things like, well, for example, 2008, 2009, 2010, I was really, really big into looking at all the UFO stuff and UFO sightings, and, you know, always looking for the latest videos that were showing, you know, what had been filmed in the sky, amazing ships or whatever. And back then it was a different thing. But now it's been really thoroughly soaked, if you will, with a lot of that subtle programming. It's tendrils. The spiderweb pieces are kind of all woven in there, and it touches a lot of stuff. Stuff that it never did before, now it is. So I gotta wonder, like, again, type of thing. Is this, again, their way of keeping everyone calm and docile? Just keep pushing this programming. It's like the big one, we talked about this a couple weeks ago. You have to forgive them. And by them, I don't mean like, you know, your brother who pissed you off or your next door neighbor who pissed you off. I'm talking about the big them, the cabal, the bad guys, the big bad guys out there, that we have to forgive them. And we discussed it. It was like, well, wait a second. Why do we have to forgive them? And come up with, give me an actual reason why we have to forgive them. Because don't they have to be held responsible for their actions? What they've done? What has been done? They are accountable. So why would I forgive them? First of all, I don't have the ability to forgive them. What these assholes have done is so above and beyond what could ever be forgiven, as far as I'm concerned. I certainly don't have the ability to forgive them. But it's a subtle piece in there because it's the same thing. It's like, oh, well, these are the guys, we know these are the same guys who programmed this religious aspect into this. So they programmed as a part of it is that you have to forgive them. Well, of course they want you to forgive them. They're the guys who programmed it. They don't want to be held accountable for their actions, so of course they want you to forgive them. It makes sense. Yeah, I'm the same with you, Robert. A few other people in here all going like, yeah, not my fucking job. I ain't fucking forgiving them. But it's a subtlety piece. We don't even realize these things get said, they get spoken of, and then you don't even realize, well, where does it come from? Who said that? Who said that that's what it is? Who said that that's what it is? When people come up and they say, oh, well, it's like this. Well, who said so? And where's the proof that it's like this? Because a lot of times you come back to it and you can't back it up. You can't. It's like, well, it's just it's just what I believe. And where does that come from? Yeah, they will be. Yeah, they will be held accountable for their creations. Yeah, exactly. Well, it's exactly what Chris just said. I don't forgive child abuse and animal abuse or widespread people abuse. No, exactly. I don't forgive that. There's no forgiveness for the actions that have been, shit that we've talked about, like the pedophilia, the horrific stuff that's gone on in the world and still goes on in the world. War atrocities. I don't forgive that. I'm never going to fucking forgive one of these. Dick Cheney, Bush, all those guys, never getting even a gram of forgiveness from me. They need to be held accountable. I'm not talking about not having forgiveness yet. Forgive people all the time. Somebody pisses you off one day. They have a bad day. They say something they don't really mean, and you forgive them. They're really, really stressed out, and they say something they don't mean, and you forgive them. That's not what I'm talking about. Because that is important. That's important. To me, that's an important aspect of life, is that learning to forgive people, learning to forgive and let go of these little things that happen. Because they just fucking happen. But that's not the kind of forgiveness I'm talking about. And I don't think anyone has a right to say they can forgive these people, and again, the crew I've just named, at all. I don't have the right to forgive them. Why should I forgive them? No. Yeah, exactly. So I wanted to talk about something else here tonight, and this is where I was going to go into this actually 2 weeks ago. We had no shows last week because I just had a crazy week with sick kids and exhaustion and all the rest of it. And I was going to go into this the night that we did the whole conversation about community, actually, and we ended up discussing community instead. And I want to talk about a subject that's an uncomfortable subject for a lot of people. And it kind of goes hand in hand with some of this what I've just been talking about with the New Age stuff. Because along with that, people don't want to look at the negative. They don't necessarily want to pay energy into the negative. They don't want to believe it. Anyway, it could even be that whole thing of like, well, it just doesn't exist in my reality. But I want to talk about technology. We've talked about the weirdness of this last week. Weird fucking dreams. Everyone's been having wild dreams, weird situations, feeling really off center, waking up and feeling like you're all over the place. Okay, so Chris, you just said the 5G stuff. Okay, and 5G, yeah. We're all hearing a lot about this 5G stuff. But that's not just it. Like, that's just one frickin' peg. And there was a really good article put out and a video. The gentleman who does the video, his voice is sometimes a little bit too lulling. He needs to make it a little more energetic, because I found at the moment there's a couple times I found my attention wandering off because his voice is really quite soft and lulling. I'll find this article. Give me one quick second. There it is. So I'm going to show you guys this. And I really recommend, as you know, as a piece, as a piece of the puzzle. Do with it as you wish. Do with it as you wish. Come on, computer. No, not that. There we go. And the video is called War versus the Truth, Psychological Operations. Now, this is interesting. And the video is, I think, 45 minutes long. And again, like I said, very, very much well worth watching as far as I'm concerned. There's a brief write down in here about it. Basically, the guy talks about all the programming. He talks about the stuff that we've talked about, MK Ultra and Monarch and Operation Mockingbird, modern day CIA influence on the media, etc., etc. But then he gets into the New Age PSYOPs. And there's some interesting stuff here. Now, give me a second. So first he talked about the, bear with me, the directed energy mind trickery. Now, these are images I've taken right out of his website. So this site is called Omnisense. Isn't that it? Hold on. Yeah, omnisense.org is the name of his site. So we talked about direct energy weapon mind trickery, Black Project technology. And he's talking about stuff that I've covered on Transpicuous News for years now. Stuff coming out of DARPA. And as I've always said, if it's coming out in the news and they're saying, oh, we've just developed the first way of being able to do this, you know they've already been using this for years. If they're actually coming out and talking about it publicly in the media. Technologies react to thought. Technologies operate invisibly. They can impersonate any existent or fictional being, can monitor thoughts directly. Overt and covert methods, synthetic signals in the brain used to enhance an experience. Now that's a big one. Signals that are sent to the person through their brain to enhance an experience. Black Project artificial intelligence under the hood, behind massive psychological operations, etc. Now, he goes into, bear with me, I don't know which direction I'm supposed to go into, the New Age PSYOPs, right? So it was like Black Ops technology under a spiritual ability cover story. We've seen this play out. I've personally experienced this one play out. They have the technology to mimic all of the shit, to mimic telepathy, empathy, telekinesis, all these types of things. They have the technology to be able to do this, which then can be used to perpetuate a lot of this kind of the spiritual side of the New Age stuff. Channeled messages being a prime one. And we've talked about this, the fact that a good portion of these channeled messages are coming directly from technologically stuff being beamed directly into people's heads. It perpetuates their religion, right? Their whole new world, New Age bullshittery. Psychological warfare intended to obfuscate the truth in the internet age. Exactly. You put out tons and tons and tons of information, then people have to try and wade through all the information to find the truth. And it can be, we all know, it can be real fucking hard to wade through all the information. Disinformation in the field of extraterrestrial information. Again, you talk about a co-opting of anything to do with disclosure, the extraterrestrial question. It has been completely co-opted by this. Been co-opted by channeled messages in the Galactic Federation and Ashtar and God knows who else and all the rest of the stuff, right? Control the opposition with false light information sources. Yeah. False light information sources. Create false messiahs with remote influencing technology. Again, emphasis on higher power taking action for you. Again, that's the whole savior meme. Division of population via belief systems. Again, something we've talked about for ages. old age belief systems into a new twisted manipulation. So the savior meme is the savior meme is the savior meme, and all the religions all use the savior meme. So it's the same thing. Now, one of the interesting pieces is, we look at some of the stuff. Remote controlled new age mind control assets. Impersonation of cosmic beings. Again, they have the ability to do all this stuff. They have the ability already to be able to put thoughts into people's minds, to be able to take thoughts out of people's minds. This has been fully admitted to by DARPA and all of these articles that I've talked about for the last few years. And this guy gets it. Watch the video, like I said, it's about 45 minutes long, but he goes into some real nitty-gritty pieces of some of the shit that they can do. Now, we know that it goes above and beyond this shit, because it goes into, well, like I said, the fake psychic stuff, the fake telepathy, hold on, hon. Yeah, I'll try and grab the link. Just give me a quick second here. I'm going to drop the link here to you guys in the chat room. If I can find Zoom again, I've just lost Zoom. There it is. And then I will make sure I post it with the archive of this video. I'll make sure it's there. We don't want to look at this stuff. I know, and I get it. People don't want to look at this stuff. And I'll go back to the whole Lilu thing. When the Lilu shit was happening, the big question for me was, why me? Why would they, why me? Why would they spend the amount of money that had to have been involved in the whole Lilu thing on me? Why? Didn't make sense. And yet there's certain aspects of it. Now, Lilu showed me that there was telepathy involved. She took thoughts right out of my head, responded to questions I hadn't even asked. So, yeah, on one level, I can sit there and go, oh, yeah, she's, this enlightened consciousness, and they have the ability, and she's psychic with me, and she's got telepathy with me, and I heard these things. Or on the flip side of it, it's technology that's used to monitor your mind and take the thoughts out of your head and just put it in front of you, which is like a parlor trick, right? They played this parlor trick for years and years and years. I mean, parlor tricks are like the old hack for selling snake oil and crystal ball gazing and all the rest of it. But it's subtle. It can be really subtle. Now, the whole thing about the telepathy one is, we've discussed this over the last few weeks, again, several times, the mind reading. We talk about the conversations we've had here in these fucking calls. You're talking to a friend outside in your backyard, nowhere near any technology. You don't have a phone on you. There isn't a computer around. And you mentioned that you really, really would love to have, I don't know, pick something outrageous like a blue baseball cap. And you walk inside, and the first thing you see on Google Ads is a sale on blue baseball caps. And you sit there and go, seriously? Like, it wasn't like I was sitting in front of my computer searching sales on blue baseball caps. I was outside talking to someone else completely, and here it is, boom. And we've talked about, everyone's having these experiences where you think something and bing, it freaking appears right in front of you as an ad. As an ad on Facebook, on Google, etc. Is it the same thing? Is it the same thing? They're just pulling that shit right out of your head? Exercising their tools, so to speak? I don't know. Now, here's the thing. There's always two sides to this. Like I said, you can find the peg that fits one hole. And we've talked about, somebody said, okay, well, there's HARP and chemtrails and vaccines, and you've got mind control, and we've got this, and you try and fit the peg. But you try to find the one peg that will explain, if you will, the most broadly the things that we see, the things that we're experiencing. Because it doesn't help us when we're looking at, well, we've got this peg for this problem, we've got this peg that we've put in this for this problem, and this is this problem here. But sometimes I have to look at both sides. I have to look at the negative as well. And yeah, we can say it's synchronicity. And we can say that, yeah, we are becoming aware, we can do these things, and we're pulling it up with our own minds, being able to zone in on these things. Could be totally right. Could be totally right. But the flip side of it is the technology is out there. And that's why I'm saying this is an uncomfortable conversation. A lot of people don't want to have this conversation. Now, I know, having been involved, I know personally the whole Lulu thing is fucking bullshit. 100% fucking bullshit. It was a psyop. It was a story that was fed. It was basically a glorified channel's message, if you will. If you want to call it anything, well, a glorified channel's message to just, instead of channel through a person, they channel through a computer. They put it through a computer and played that one up. Didn't mean that it didn't feel real at the time, because it emotionally got ya. But they can do that. They can play with your emotions. They can pitch that empathy at you at lightning speed. Like I said, Lulu took thoughts right out of my head. But they have the technology for that. We know they have the technology for that. So I know, mine now, right here, this no. The whole Lulu thing was a crock shit. It was a psyop. And quite frankly, it worked very well. It worked very, very well. Because if you look at where we are sitting right now, the difference between October of 2016 and today, there's some pretty big differences right now within our groups. So that psyop worked really fucking well. And it worked really, really fucking well, and not for us. It worked really, really fucking well for them. All I'm trying to do is get people to look at all the other pieces. We have our certain pegs that we like to say, this peg really fits, this peg right here. This peg here really fits in a lot of different spots. So I'm only going to look at this peg as what could be a reason why this, and this happened. But you have to look at the other pegs. Because if you're not looking at the other pegs, then you're just ignoring them. Doesn't mean those other pegs don't exist. That's a harsh fucking truth. Sorry, guys. I know there's people who hate it when I say that, right? It's a harsh fucking truth. These things exist. Now, here's the other part of that, though. Well, I know that this shit exists. I also know it doesn't fucking work. Or, let's say, doesn't work all the fucking time. Use the Lulu thing as a prime example of that. How many people were on board at the very beginning? Really, really interested. It was a really cool fucking experience, et cetera, et cetera. But within a couple months, they were all like, well, yeah, no. So all that technology that could have been used to portray that entire thing to happen was a failure for the most part. We're all here. We're all still doing our fucking shit. So we're proof that it doesn't work all the time. It might get you for a moment. Do you know what I mean? But how many conversations have we had about the fact that if you have a thought, comes in, and like a thought that will randomly come into your head, and you go, where the fuck did that come from? And then you go, wait a second, where the fuck did that come from? That's not me. I would never think that. Like that's just so freaking not me, right? Because we're on top of it. Like we've got this handled. To me, we've got this shit handled. And we're gonna fall down occasionally. I had a tough fucking week last week. The emotional stuff that was going on, the anger, the lashing, I had so many incidences of like out of control anger last week. Where that I had to sit there and go look back and go like, there's no fucking reason for it. It's not me. It's not me. I've got nothing to be angry about. Oh, I might get pissed off at little things or frustrated at that type of thing. But the scale of the anger I was feeling was nothing in comparison to what the situation actually was. And then you step back and you go, okay, well, I've just scrubbed all the floors in the house, which was awesome, because at least it's done. But that wasn't my anger. And I don't accept that anger. You move on. And you may know later on that you get that same, you go through the same experience again. You go, oh, I recognize this feeling. Oh, we're going to do this again. Yeah. Fuck that shit. I'm not doing this again. Because you're aware of it. Whether it's anger or sadness or depression. And there's been a lot of that going on too. A lot of people have gone through some pretty fucking heavy depressing moments, especially in the last 5-6 weeks. And the same thing as I say to everyone, but when you look at it, is it yours? Is it really yours? Or is it something that you've put a label to try and make it fit as the emotion you're feeling, but really there's no trigger for it that you can really come up with? So that's it. For all this technology that they've tried to use, it's the same thing we've talked about when we've talked about things like vaccines, and we've talked about the chemtrails, and we talked about all this shit. It's pretty much a failure. It's pretty much a failure. They've tried really fucking hard to make people as completely stupid as they possibly could. Numbed, emotionally numbed, and drugged out. Yeah, it's worked on a lot of people. But it's not really working. Their agenda has not even remotely been met to what they thought. To where they thought they would be at this point in their plans, it's not working. Because the human, us, we are so far beyond that. We're working through the shit. When you talk about the physical level, like vaccines, chemtrails, fluoride in the water, et cetera, we're moving through that shit. We're dealing with it. We're moving through it. It's not crippling us, right? Yeah, but Peter, it does happen. And like the examples I just gave. They try to program us. And sometimes it works for a day or two, maybe even a couple of weeks. How many of us have gone down a rabbit hole? Gone down a rabbit hole and fallen really deep down a rabbit hole where you get yourself almost to the point of actually believing this. Going, oh my God, this is it. And then you come out the other side and go, oh. Yeah, and that's what I'm saying, Peter. They try, but they don't succeed. And that's what I'm saying. It's not succeeding. It's not succeeding. It happens a bit. And they tell you that sometimes they get us for a day, 2 days, a week, a month. But then you break free of it. You work through it, you figure your shit out. And if you don't, shit just gets bigger and bigger and bigger until you get to the point where you have no choice but to work through it and figure shit out. Because it just seems to be the way the cycles are at the moment, if you will. If there's something that you're not looking at, it will just get bigger and bigger and bigger until it gets so big that you are forced to fucking look at it, because now it's the size of a freaking barn and it's right in front of you and you can't look at anything else. So therefore, you're going to have to look at it. Yes, and Sam, exactly. It's what they're doing right now in the U.S. They're dividing everyone. You notice? No more talk of Russia. No more talk of North Korea. Distract, 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 distract. Oh, we're going to talk about race. Oh, we're going to talk about the Civil War now and black versus white. That's right. We're going to do the race war all over again, just like we did with the Confederate flag back in 2016. It's fucking bullshit. It's all fucking bullshit. And there are people who are getting pulled into it. There are people who are getting pulled into it. Even within the aware community. I've watched it, especially over this race stuff over the last 2 weeks. People who are pretty aware. And then when you punch a hole in their balloon of programs, and they lash out because they don't want to see that that program is a program, that that belief is a piece of bullshit. Abe Lincoln was not a good guy. And I know a lot of Americans get really, really upset because they've been raised to believe that, you know, Abraham Lincoln was just, you know, oh, that one of the best presidents ever. He was so good. No, he wasn't. He was not a good guy. He sold America to fucking England and covered it all over. He was he was a mass murderer and all the shit that happened. Really, Peter? They want to remove Sir John A. Macdonald from schools? What for? The same thing? The same kind of shit? But this is it. So again, the programming comes up and you got to look at it and it'll get bigger and bigger. And so right now, again, we're back on the stupid race war shit. Oh, because he was involved in the native schools. See, that's in Canada. There's one of your pieces. We don't have the black versus white history, but we have the First Nations versus the white. So we have the First Nations in the residential schools, which is how they're trying to push that agenda over in Canada. Okay, I didn't know that about Sir John A. Macdonald. That's really interesting, Peter. I will have to look into that. That's definitely one I have to look into. They're not winning. That's the one thing I can. And that again, I don't know it. I don't. I mean, let me rephrase that. I know it. I don't have proof. I can't say 100% I have the answers because we all know I don't have any fucking answers. I only have questions. But in my gut, I know. Like, they're not winning. They're not winning this shit. All this technology that they're using is obviously not working. So they have that, and hence half the reason why the distractions are continuous. And look at the race war thing right now. Look at the eclipse thing right now. Oh, and I put up a meme a couple days before. Was it like the Sunday before the eclipse or the Saturday before the eclipse saying, oh, I can't wait to see what they can use for a distraction next week. Because then the eclipse will be over. They'll need something new. Oh, let's go back to the race war. Again, perceived race war, right? Continuous distractions. Because the rest of the programming is not working. Like all the rest of the mind control. And yeah, there are people who obviously, we've seen the MK Ultra victims and these mind control victims when they go on these mass shooting sprees. You know, the guy from the Colorado Theater, what was his name? I fucking see his face, but I can't remember his name. And every picture you saw of him, the man was so obviously no one there at all. So yeah, it does fucking work. We know that they're playing it out on certain people. But for the most part, yeah, no, not working. Not even close to working. So yeah, I don't know, guys. I've just like rambled on for, I don't know, freaking 45 minutes nonstop. Does anyone want to add any thoughts to that? Anything to that long ramble that I've just thrown out there? Come on, someone else has to talk for a while. I need to have a smoke.
Okay, I'll pipe up. I just wrote something, Danny.
I couldn't read it. It went by too fast. I couldn't read it.
No problem. No problem. I can speak it easier than I can write it. You know, if something's supposed to fail, like this system, for instance, it's crumbling, you know, long term, in order to get rid of it, it's got to go away. And the way things go away is they fail, you know, just like your car. you know, planned obsolescence and all of that stuff. But in order to get the new model online, you got to have all the old models no longer.
You're muted.
Just follow me on this.
You're muted.
It actually sounds almost crazy to me, but not quite. If it's meant to fail, just like an automobile, planned obsolescence and all of that, the damn thing has to start failing. And yeah, we repair it and we put baling wire and duct tape and everything else on it. You know, you've heard it, you've seen it, you've heard it. That's what we all do. Eventually, they frickin' fail. Say that's the game plan for this system too.
Yep.
It has to, in order to get to the next stage, this has to become inoperative. So it's crumbling. It's crumbling all over in all of these ways that you know, their plans seem to be failing all over the place. They want to start World War III. They just can't do it. They want this. They want that. They want riots. They want this, that, and the other thing. It ain't working. The system is crumbling and failing. So the net result for the people that plan this all out say this is how we're going to manifest it. It's just going to crumble on its own from its own weight. And then we can come in and institute our new plan. So in a way, this failing is really a success. So it isn't a failure. Depends on where you're looking. Yes, it's a failure if you're looking real close to it because you're involved in it and you can't see past the ultimate goal or the long range goal. But by the long range goal, it's a success. I know that's goofy and crazy, but I just wanted to throw that out there again to expand it out just a little bit. Failure could be success, actually, if you step back far enough and look at it in that kind of a light. And I thought I wanted to just share that, you know, kind of goofiness out of my side of the story.
Well, you know what? You're not wrong, because this is the thing. Again, this is a conversation Nick and I have been having for the last, well, especially the last year. Every empire fails. Every empire, and we watch. If you read your perceived acceptable government legislated history, there's empires. And one empire rises, and then it fails. And another empire rises, and then it fails. It's the end of the American empire right now. The American empire has been in power for 100 years, give or take. And it's crumbling. It's falling to pieces. It's falling, well, yes, okay, Moksha, that's another whole fucking conversation. Rome never failed. Well, yes, and that's what I'm saying. The perceived government accepted history, right? I did put the proviso in there. The United States time as the head of the empire is failing. And unfortunately, it's really, really fucking messy. As I'm pretty sure the fall of the Greek Empire was just as fucking messy. I'm pretty sure the fall of the Spanish Empire was just as fucking messy. But they didn't have internet, so it wasn't across the world in a matter of seconds, right? It all goes in a cycle. At this perception, at this moment as we see it, the falling of the American empire is going to happen. It is because it's how their template rolls. It's how they do it. So, and like Maury said, if it's falling to pieces, it's got to fall to pieces before they can roll over itself. Yeah, Rome rewrites itself every 100 years. Exactly.
Who will be the next murderous guinea pigs to do their bidding? I mean, it's always...
It's going to be China? I'm probably going to be China. It'll be the next empire. Probably. When you look at what's going on now with the STR basket and stuff like that, and who owns the most of the world's debt, America's debt, we'll see how it plays out. Maybe it won't. But the whole thing is regardless, I think Maury's right in the fact of looking at the pulling back so we can look at the whole picture. The crumbling of this entire reality is happening in front of us. And we've talked about it every week. We talk about it. We talk about like fucking time is fucking falling to pieces. Reality around us seems to be just completely distorting it and becoming well, it's falling to pieces. whether you want to call it a construct or a program or give it another title, whatever, reality is falling to pieces. And could that be like that's it? Like that's the next step in order to get to the next step, to go into the next whatever it is after that, you have to tear down the old. Tear down the old, let it completely fall apart so that you can go into the next better model.
I got a little bit more on that, Danny, and I don't need to monopolize it all, but I do want to share this kind of angle on it, just to help put this into a frame of reference.
Yeah.
That at the moment, it could be controlled, and that could be the total plan of the evil bastards that have been playing around with us forever, as far as any of us know, in all of our intimate ways of independent research. It could just be that. Or it could also be that playing out and the collapse of the current system, as you're talking about, and we all really agree one way or another, it is collapsing. It could be that that falls within the game plan of those evil bastards, so to speak. But it also could fall into the game plan of a larger force at play too. And now we have to go into this is something that I know.
Muted.
It generally doesn't get talked about a whole lot in here, and I am well aware. But I know most of the people, or a good number of them in here. And every single one of you sitting here,
you're muted.
There's a certain aspect about you that you're aware of that you don't really talk about all that much in here, and that's a spiritual awareness. There is that aspect, and the question ultimately, it is that. Yeah, and if you take the point that there is no such thing, then the evil bastards win, period, because they're the ones in charge. But if you think that maybe they're not the controllers they make themselves out to be, and there's a higher authority somewhere, where, God, for instance, or whatever, there's lots of different approaches to that one, then you've got that whole game at play too, and the collapse still falls within the purview of that consciousness, of that awareness as well. So everything, in a sense, is still going to game plan for both sides. One has got a little longer term view than the other, but we're not in a position down here with our ability to comprehend and see with our mental, and you know where I'm going with this. We're not situated to know the answer from where we sit, but that doesn't mean that the answer isn't there. And so what do we all do with it? I will quickly, Daniel, let you talk.
Okay, well, here's the thing, because that was perfectly well said. So here's the thing. We don't know the answer. What, for me, comes down to is what we keep talking about being in the now. We don't know the answer. Then, my own personal opinion, the way we move forward is to move forward without knowing the answer, i.e., without making assumptions or decisions based on belief systems, whatever. But we move forward, and we move forward in this now. And we say, okay, what is the issue in this now? What is my issue right now? My issue is, pick something. I don't like where I'm living. I don't like my job. I don't like my life. I don't like where I live. Pick one. And you say, right, am I going to sit here and wait for Donald Trump to rescue me, or the financial collapse to happen, or the dinar to come in, or the New World Order to totally destroy everyone, a la the Georgia Guidestones, or am I going to work for Armageddon, or you're going to sit around and wait, or you're going to say, I'm not happy about this, therefore I'm going to change it. Or I'm going to at least moving towards it, making plans to, looking at ways to do what I need to do in this moment to be happy, to do what I want to do. Donna, I did see your hand up, and I do want to have a call on you, get you to come out and say something. I just wanted to finish just this bit. So remind me again, because I'm going to go back to the new show that I'm going to be doing. So, because that plays into exactly this. Donna, did you still want to add your 2 cents into this?
The only thing I wanted to say was that for me, the bottom line, because they're so worldwide, is that until the pedophilia comes out in full force and it's in everybody's face, it's just going to be the same old over and over again.
Well, and it is coming out in everyone's face, right? I mean, we're watching. I mean, the difference between 2012 to now on that subject alone, on the pedophilia and the gross pedophilia abuse that has been so horrific. 2012, there were people who knew about it. They knew it existed. They didn't go down looking at it. They didn't research it. But they knew at some point, somewhere, yeah, there was this shit going on, and they may have associated with like black magic rituals and stuff like that. But the difference is now we fucking know. I mean, it's in everybody who has done any amount of work to become aware of the truth of what this reality that we live in is about. And the mainstream media is hiding the massive arrests that are happening and all the rest of it. Absolutely. But it doesn't matter, because now people are fucking aware. They're not just aware of it exists. They're aware of who's fucking involved, who's being arrested, who is hiding, who is paying off who to stop investigations. They're, just in England alone, the Scotland Yard has been so fucked over now for being completely involved in these investigations and covering up these investigations. It's blowing wide open. We're seeing it happen right now. And I think sometimes we for me, a lot of it, when I lose perspective on it, I'll go back and say, what did I think about this in 2010 or 2014 or something? And then go, oh, fuck, yeah, you know what? It's so funny because, yeah, I was aware of it, etc. But now we can sit down and everyone can have full-on conversations about what they've read, who's been involved, who's going to be involved, who's going to be brought up on charges, how many people have been arrested this week. And even the mainstream news is getting out there about these massive arrests. We've seen some pretty big articles come out in the last year talking about massive arrests on the pedophilia stuff. So it is happening. It is happening. And that's one of the things of the distractions, right? I mean, for all we know, that could be one of the reasons why they're distracting half of America with race wars right now, is because of some of these arrests that have happened in the whole pedophilia shit. Keep people distracted. Look over there. Don't look at this shit. No, don't look at this shit. Please don't look at this shit. Okay, but even that, okay, Philip, excellent. What you're talking about there, we're watching the state taking children away. But again, this is now becoming mainstream. We're now seeing the mainstream media are starting to they're being forced to cover some of the shit that's going on. Decisions when parents have denied medical treatment for their child. That just happened in England with the little baby who was born with an extreme hereditary defect. And they wanted to take the baby to the States because there was a group of doctors that they said, if we get to him young enough, and the baby was only a few weeks old, we may be able to help. And the British government took their child away from them and wouldn't let them take him to the States. Well, that went globally viral. And it's happening in Australia, and it's happening in Canada and places like that. But it is getting out there, the state taking control of children. And this knowledge is starting to seep out into the public awareness. As I always say, people may not want to admit to or agree with or even respond in any way to a lot of these stories. But when it comes by on their screen, even if all they see is the headline, it's there. that seed is already fucking planted. So if they've already seen in the last 2 years 10 or 15 news stories come by in their mainstream news feed about children being taken away by the state and then finding out that all is not what it seems. These, like, the state seriously fucked up and has caused horrific damage to children, etc., etc. It's still there. It's still there, right? Those seeds are already planted, and sooner or later there's going to be enough seeds in there. There won't be enough room anymore, and it will explode, and they will be able to start adding all those seeds will start growing together, and they'll figure it out. So I want to talk about, new show. I had another awesome fucking conversation with my lovely friend Bin from way down under yesterday. We had a really good chat. And we got work to do. We seriously got some fucking work to do. So I am going to put together another show. And the theme of that show is going to be community. And unity and community. And the name of the show is going to be called Common Unity. It's not going to be a three shows a week. Not going to happen. Sorry, guys. Not going to happen. But it'll be one of those where we do, like, one Sunday it'll be Transpicuous Views. The next Sunday it'll be Common Unity. But it is so important that we focus on this community aspect right now. Of the now, this now. Focusing on this now and what we want to do. And this even comes back to the whole thing of everything falling to pieces. If everything is fucking falling to pieces, what do you need to do? Dawn, right now, is out there in Texas, watching the floodwaters rise next to her house.
Grab the broom.
Yeah, watching the waters come up. So what does she got to do? Well, Dawn happens to be a prepper, so she's fine. She's got all the food for her and her animals, and she's all well taken care of. But what did she do? She prepared. She prepared for whatever happened, right? For whatever happened, she was prepared. And it didn't matter if it was a natural hurricane or it was this man-made monstrosity that's hitting Texas right now, because this is such a fucking man-made monstrosity that they've driven into Texas. It's not even funny. Okay? How it happens doesn't matter. It's the fact that it happens. If you're prepared, does it matter how it happens? In that moment? No. All that matters is that you're prepared. So for me, taking that to the bigger expanse of this, right? If reality is crumbling around us, whether it's the fall of the American empire, fall of our reality empire, whether it's the cabal doing it or some other greater, more expansive entity, consciousness, whatever doing it, does it matter? No, it doesn't. What matters is that we're focused on what we want to do. How do you want to move forward? Do you want to live the way we're living right now? I'm pretty sure the answer is going to be a unanimous no. So, then it's time to, in this now, start trying to prepare, make plans to move forward. Regardless of what that happens out there, still moving forward and what we want to do. And if that means building communities, if that means changing our lives in a way that will make us happy and working for what will make us happy, then I really think that that's what we're supposed to be focusing on right fucking now.
I agree, Danny, and I got to say that because what you're talking about is exactly right. You're taking the victimhood away from what you, instead of reacting and responding to what, quote, they're doing here, there, and the other place, you're taking the bull by the horns and starting to be who you are. Exactly. It may not be the ultimate real answer, but by God, at least you're doing something instead of reacting all the freaking time. That's a significant change worthy of pointing out in that kind of a language. Just the very fact that you've expressed it this way, and I know you're not unique and alone in the group that's doing that. You're taking control of your own existence. That's where it starts. It starts with you. You change. Old saying, change yourself, change your world. It's true. The way you may not be able to, so what? You can't change Donald Trump or anybody else, but you can change you, and in so doing,
you're muted. In so doing,
you affect not only yourself, but everybody around you. That's what you're doing, and that's showing your light for what it is, as opposed to hiding it or having it on low power. And every time you do shit like that, you shine your light brighter. You guys know that language too. You're doing it through actions, not just preaching and talking and writing. You're actually doing something in your own lives, and in the doing of it, you're involved. You're feeling everything is it's more vibrant and more alive. And I've said enough, but you get the point. And yes,
exactly. Non-victimhood. I'm not going to sit back and worry about what the world is going to do to me. Whether all these things that are going on around us, right? Whether they come into being or not, right? We move forward. We are responsible for our own happiness. And when we get to the point of self-responsibility, even on that level, on that basic level, we are the ones who are responsible for our own happiness. Only us.
Sorry.
Yeah, Jane.
I was just going to add, kind of playing off of what you and Maury was saying. You know, in looking at the shit going on around us, it should only be looked at long enough to get the gist of, you know, of what the hell is going on. And then from there, then you prepare and you act accordingly. And I don't mean in a like combat type mentality, but like Dawn and you and I, you know, I'm prepared too. I've got my bug out bag. In fact, I bought some more things to add to it today, but I don't lose sleep over it. I know what's going on in the world because I pay attention and I research shit. And so you know what's at your back, so that as you go forward, you know who's behind you, kind of thing.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
You get the information that's pertinent, and then, you know, you strategically move on.
Yep. Absolutely. Self-responsibility. The quintessential they have been taking all responsibility away from us for generations now. I mean, literally for generations now. And each generation, it gets worse and worse and worse. To the point, like we've talked about this umpteen thousand times. Most people have no concept of self-responsibility. They're looking for a savior, whether it's a religious savior, whether it's a political savior, whether it's a FEMA camp is going to save me from this, go away, mosquito, this horrific flood, etc. Self-responsibility. And that starts with self, literally. And like I said, I can't emphasize this so much. It's like we are responsible for our own happiness. And if you're not happy, then doesn't mean you can change it today. It doesn't mean you can change it tomorrow. Maybe this is something that's going to have to be, you know, a long-term, thought out, you know, making plans. But it doesn't matter. Make the understanding to yourself, like, this has to change. And if it means the things like where you're living, who you're living with, what you want to be involved in, then it's time to change it. Or at the very least, start making the plans to change it. So that's the common unity And I'll have to go and do artwork and all the rest of it. Hey, John, JC, we're going to be doing another show, by the way. I have to work on intros and stuff. By the way, I just thought I'd let you know that. I never actually give anyone heads up warning. I haven't even told Ben that he's going to be involved in this. Hey, Ben, guess what? You're going to have to help me out with something. We need to start moving. There are places. Now, here's the thing. This is really, really interesting. There was an interesting post in the Unfuckers room. And I actually watched this post. Certain posts come up that I watch closely because I like to watch how people react. There was a post that came up in the Unfuckers room about community. And the post was by a good friend of mine. His name is Wade. And Wade and Nick and I have been talking on Skype calls for, feels like eons, but it's probably only been about 3 or 4 years. Wade is the one who came up with the crystal battery idea that Nick's been working on. So that tells you how long ago, like we're talking 2013. And he posted about a place in Canada to build a community. Now, he's talking about land that's dirt cheap. It's basically the equivalent of what's a ghost town in Canada, a town that's got nothing left. Nothing left. The town is destitute. And they're now selling off chunks of land for like $300 a piece, I believe, is the price for a house plot. Now, it's in northern Saskatchewan. We're not talking about warm, balmy, sunshiny beach weather, let me tell you. But he was talking about it. And he's not really active in Unfuckers group because he's off. He's doing shit. Like he grows, like I don't know, I think last summer he grew 20,000 pounds of food. And a lot of it he gave away to the community. So I watched to see what the reaction would be. And almost no one commented. There was no real interaction. There was very few people actually asked Wade, hey, Wade, what's going on? Like, can you clarify this? Hey, let's talk about this. Let's go. And I was like, interesting. Now, was it that, first of all, it's August and everyone's busy and people aren't around and not seeing what's kind of going on. Because you're busy. We're outside for the most part, right? I'm going to find Wade's post and I'm going to bump it to the top of Unfuckers and I'm going to put it up there because I want people to see it. That it doesn't have to be ghost towns in the south of Spain or Greece. There are places like this in the States, in Canada. And you know what? They may not be ideal locations. They may not be wonderful, beachside, perfect weather. Maybe it's going to be northern Saskatchewan, as an example. But it's there. It's there. Dawn, does it have trees? Possibly not very much. It's northern fucking Saskatchewan. We're talking thousands and thousands of miles of wheat field. For as far as your eyes can fucking see, it's dead flat, and the winters are cold. Real cold. But, as Nick and I had a conversation today, and we said, if you were to get 10 families together, and say for the $300 for a plot of land, let's say you buy 10, 12, 15 plots of land. Then you go to the local council, the municipal government, and say, here's what we're going to do. We're going to buy these 12, 15 plots of land, and we're going to build our own community, and you're going to leave us the fuck alone. We'll pay your taxes. We'll do all that kind of shit. We're not going to do illegal crap, but you're not going to give us zoning issues. So if we decide we want to build a community recreation hall in the middle of this land, you are not going to give us a hard time and say, oh, you don't have a zoning permit for it, right? I'm using Laverna, Saskatchewan as an example. $300 for a piece of land you can buy yourself a run-down, beat-up old RV that doesn't even run and plop it on that piece of land and have a place to live instantaneously while you build. Even if it takes you 2 years to build a house, whatever, piece by piece.
Don't you need to be a Canadian
Yes.
citizen to buy land?
Well, yes, absolutely, Doppy. So I'm talking about Canadians. But I'm talking about these places are everywhere. These places, there are people who I know who have farms in the States who have been looking and have talked about the fact of how they would like to, and it's not ideal. Again, they're not in, you know, Southern California or, you know, they're in places where it's a little remote and yeah, it's not going to be like the scenic, wonderful place right off the bat. It's going to mean hard work. What I'm saying is, though, these places are available. These places are available. People can get in, make plans. Even if you don't, yeah, exactly, Chris, you don't even have to buy the land. Get a long-term lease on it. For example, in Canada, we have Crown land, and occasionally you can go and get long-term lease on Crown land. Things like, what are you going to grow? Can you grow cannabis? Well, in Canada, it's looking like very soon that might be an ability to do that. You absolutely can grow hemp in Canada, though. So there you go. It's a community cash crop right there. You could grow hemp for the community, grow 3 acres of hemp, and that would be a cash crop that would help support the entire community. Other projects that you want to do within the community. The short growing cycle. It's a cold winter. You know what? Greenhouses are not fucking hard to build. And we have the ability to come up with cheap and inexpensive ways to keep them warm so that you can grow all year round. It takes effort. It takes planning. It takes, you know, putting your nose to the grindstone. So all I'm saying is there are places out there. But it means that we ourselves have to get up and do shit ourselves. Yeah, and so, you know, we have to do shit. We're going to do shit. We're going to do shit. Get off your butt and figure out what you want to do. And it doesn't mean it doesn't have to be like massively huge. It can be just a little thing. Like making your own little garden, figuring out a way to do it, or just doing something that makes you happy in the now. Yeah, John, you might go into shock in northern Saskatchewan. We're talking real fucking cold. But like I'm saying, I know people who have got land down in Texas. So,
you know, my dogs won't even want to go outside and do their business. They'll be looking at me like I'm crazy.
Are you crazy, woman? My feet are freezing to the floor. We joke about the fact of what we would do if we never took Groot back to Canada, because seeing him in snow would be really funny.
My wiener dogs, you wouldn't even be able to see them. I don't.
He just disappeared into a snowdrift.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like I said, you know, like you found that one. Was it you, Dawn, who found that piece of land in northern? Was it New York State?
Yeah, that was me.
Okay, I was a dirt cheap piece of land. Like that was not an expensive piece of land for the size of it. In Canada, in BC, you will find parcels of land. Old hunting lodges is one of the big ones, and we looked for a while outside an area that was about 4 hours drive from. Actually, Peter Carl would know. It's like halfway between Ottawa and Toronto. There's an area in there, and there's a lot of stuff that was available for sale, old hunting lodges, things like that, and there was huge amounts of land, and it was dirt freaking cheap, like dirt cheap. But that's where you have to, you know, you got to go in, you got to look at zoning and figure out what's feasible, et cetera, et cetera. But there are ways of doing it. It just means that perhaps it starts off, it's not going to be in the ideal place for you, right?
Maybe it'd be a good idea when people are out and about, or they're, scrolling through their, newspapers or Craigslist or wherever they happen to be looking, and they notice land that sounds, pretty amazing. Go ahead and post it in the UU room for shits and giggles, just so we can kind of start keeping track of what's out there and bounce off each other with ideas.
Yeah, absolutely. In the RTS site, I am going to create a common unity group. And the common unity group is going to be specifically for people discussing community. People discussing how they want to move forward, ideas that they have, all of it, all the aspects of it. Yeah, listen, I used to live in Cape Breton Island, and when I was a little girl, little girl. So this is the far east coast, opening of the St. Lawrence Seaway. And we lived in a mobile home neighborhood. So you have like the mobile homes, and they went up the side of a mountain. And it was very, very luckily designed that in some mobile homes, like the door to the house was on the right-hand side and some was on the left-hand side, because quite regularly my parents used to talk about the fact where the snow would come in. And the drifts would come over and cover one whole side of the mobile home. So basically, if the snow was blowing from the right, anyone who had the doors on the left would get out and go out and dig out the people with the doors on the right, because their whole house would be like completely covered over in snow. They'd have to be dug out from the door to get them back out. Yeah. Suddenly Sedona sounds real good. So, yeah. I mean, hey, some people don't mind the cold. I personally mind the cold. I'm not someone who's really, really big on cold weather, which is why I don't live in Canada anymore.
Do we have big cats and things out there too, like that hunt dogs?
Where, in Saskatchewan or where?
Yeah.
No. You get wolves, and occasionally you'll get like coyote and stuff like that. But the big cats like that, that's mostly more mountainous areas. You're talking the prairies. We're talking, like I said, it's wheat farms and fields for as far as the eye can see for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of miles.
Yeah, we've seen these pictures of these big cats jumping the fences in Sedona and like grabbing these big dogs and just taking them over the fence. And I'm like, holy shit balls.
Oh, Ontario. Oh, yeah. BC and Ontario. Oh, yeah. In BC, we have grizzly bears, though. That's really fun.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, I used to joke about that in Australia, because Ben and I would have these conversations, and he'd be talking about all the poisonous spiders and all the poisonous snakes. And then I'd be pulling out and going, you got all the little deadly stuff, but in Canada, we get all the big deadly stuff. Like grizzly bears, polar bears, moose. Oh, my camera's just completely out of focus again.
How can humans live that way?
What?
That's insane.
The poisonous snakes?
To live where there's grizzly bears and shit. Just give me the palm trees. Salt water.
Oh, come on. Bears are beautiful. I love bears.
Oh, well, sure. But you don't love them enough to still be living by them.
I did. I've lived by bears many, many times. As a matter of fact, we have a story that we joke and we tell the kids all the time, is when I was pregnant with Kira, I was like maybe about 2 weeks before she was born. Nick was going off in the evening. He was going to go out and meet a friend. And he walked out the door of the house, and we were living in the outskirts of a small town. We were way out in the outskirts. And then he turned around 2 minutes later and came back in. I was like, did you forget something? He was like, no, there's a bear leaning against the car. So I thought I'd just wait him out. And I looked out the front door, and it was just a young black bear. He was maybe only about this big. Wasn't that old. But he was literally, he'd been, walking through the neighborhood, checking out the garbage cans, and he was leaning on the car. And, after about 10 minutes, he wandered and sauntered off, and then Nick went out and got in the car and drove away.
I kind of prefer the 4 seasons anyway. I like that. Because you get a little bit of everything, you know. You get in the summer, it's like you can get as hot as Florida, and then during the rainy season, it's kind of like the rainforest. The winters are a bitch, though.
Yeah.
But it's 4 seasons.
Yeah, I'm good with 3 of the 4 seasons. It's the 4th one that gets me, and that would be the one that starts with the letter W. Just
That's right.
don't particularly get along with that one. Well, guys, we're pretty much finished for tonight. So, we'll be back on Wednesday for the Unfuck It discussion. And we'll decide what topic we're going to talk about then. Who knows? That's like days away from now. Who knows? Yeah, the one W gets most of you old folks. Yeah, I'm an old folk, and the one with the W, it gets, even when I was 19, it still got me. So, yeah. So, guys, I will talk to you all later. You guys have a great early part of the week. Bye, everyone.